Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm delighted to introduce the next event, how the apparel industry sustainability investments are creating financial value. We're looking forward to hearing from Eric Fisch from the National Sector Head of Retail and Apparel, Corporate Banking at HSBC, Cynthia Power, Director of the Renew Program at Eileen Fisher, Kathleen Talbot, Chief Sustainability Officer and VP of Operations at Reformation, Matthew Thurston, Director of Sustainability at REI, and last but not least, Sophie Rifkin, who is the Director of Corporate Research and Engagement at the NYU Center for Sustainability. Sustainable Business, and she will be moderating this panel today. So with that, I will welcome Sophie to the stage.
Great. Thank you so much. Great for everyone to join us today. I am delighted to speak today to share the work that we've been embarking on with the apparel sector for a number of months now, and really delighted to pick up on what Professor Whalen shared this morning to give you a bit more information about the novel framework we've developed with the apparel sector, to walk through a couple high-level case studies that we've worked on with our partners. And after I share that information, I'm going to bring up my esteemed and really fabulous panel to really talk more about how the apparel industry can really leverage sustainability to drive financial performance. So let me pull up a quick set of slides to get us started with the conversation today. So as many of you know, the apparel industry faces numerous environmental challenges, significant impacts spanning land use, water pollution, air pollution, and biodiversity, just to name a few. There's also numerous labor and social challenges across the value chain, from manufacturing and supply chain into the retail space as well. The industry also was facing numerous threats and disruptions prior to COVID, and certainly COVID has accelerated many of those challenges facing traditional brick and mortar retail as well. And so with the backdrop of those enormous challenges, though, we see great opportunity that the apparel industry is continually prioritizing and finding ways to invest in sustainability. But like many industries, the challenge still remains of how do you really measure and quantify those investments to be able to better assess the more holistic value that we all know sustainability can create, the internalities, the internal benefits that sustainability programs can help to drive, but that are often hard to quantify and measure. And so with really generous support and collaboration from our project funder and sponsor, HSBC, we embarked on a project to really begin to map and develop a framework of what are the key strategies companies are exploring to drive both societal and environmental impact, but that also prioritize financial impact as well. And then to really work with a set of collaborators and actual partners in the industry to deploy our ROSI monetization methodology to understand and actually quantify what some of these benefits are. So we would like to, of course, thank and acknowledge many of the partners who worked with this on, some as research partners and some really through this active case collaboration as well. So now I'm going to walk through at a high level. Professor Whalen share the framework with you, but we'll kind of also walk through the framework and also just give you a little bit of a flavor for the cases that we've developed thus far. So if you were with us in the morning session, you saw our ROSI framework, which is really the underpinning theory and methodology behind this work. So for this apparel project, we assessed different efforts across the value chain, ranging from the start of how a product is designed in the development and procurement phase, all the way to how brands and companies are engaging consumers and driving sustainability efforts as well. And we landed on these 8 strategies. We found that companies are prioritizing operational efficiency work, from things like reducing chemical impact or investing in reduction of material waste, to also strategies focusing on how do you implement sustainable raw material sourcing investing or invest in your people across the value chain. So there's a lot of information on these slides. All of this is available on our website as well. But I think it's really important just to see all of the really fantastic and deep work that we've really developed here, and really to map what we call the practices down the left across the value chain located on the top, with a number of different sub-practices in the middle. Again, this is where we see companies really investing in to really advance their sustainability work. So to take one on employee and supplier well-being, we find that companies are really focused on how do they invest in their people through different engagement programs, for example. And so then working with REI, we really looked at how does REI, a consumer co-op with a deep mission and sustainability orientation to how the company does business, how is that purpose orientation translating into quantifiable outcomes? How is it really helping them to think about HR and people and to drive positive outcomes there as well? And so working with REI and working with their employee engagement survey data, their HR and sustainability teams, we looked at how, again, investing in being mission-led is helping them to see reductions in things like employee turnover, which in turn can help to reduce hiring costs. We also looked at how it's helping them to increase productivity with their high performers. And we also, subtracted costs associated with mission-aligned days off that the company offers. And with REI, we were able to quantify a net benefit of $34 million. Matt Thurston from REI will join us on the panel to talk more about this work later. We also mapped a number of different practices and sub-practices focused on circularity. Companies are investing in take-back programs, they're investing in more circular packaging solutions, and they're also doing things to really rethink product longevity and keeping products out of landfills through innovative ways. And so working with two of our partners, Eileen, Fischer, and Reformation, we look to monetize both brand and financial benefits accruing back to the companies by prioritizing circularity. So with Eileen Fischer, we explored the benefits of their longstanding Renew program. We looked at more straightforward benefits, such as their profit from the Renew program, which is a program where customers are encouraged to bring back gently worn clothing, which Eileen Fischer then resells. We looked at also, though, the benefits to Eileen Fischer, the parent company, in terms of incremental profit driving to them from the Renew program. We also explored benefits such as things around customer acquisition cost reduction and increases in earned media. Two areas that you might not think are a little bit more intangible here. So how does the existence of having a circularity program help Eileen Fischer, the parent company, perhaps attract a new demographic? How is it maybe attracting customers to purchase full price Eileen Fischer clothing who perhaps learned about the brand because of their prioritization and promotion of circularity as well? And certainly increases in earned media, the attention and press that Eileen Fischer was able to generate from the existence of the Renew program. For this example, we found a net benefit in just 1 year of $1.8 million. And lastly, working with Reformation, we applied Rosie to really understand how their partnership with ThredUp, a leading online secondhand consignment store, was allowing Reformation to also accrue financial and brand-related benefits. So by offering customers a shopping credit to Reformation, customers who consign clothing through ThredUp, we really wanted to understand how, again, this alignment between two brands on the topic of circularity was helping Reformation, in this case, to accrue financial benefits. We explored, again, profit from the partnership program, incremental profit driving to Reformation, and again, a reduction in customer acquisition costs. So customers learn about Reformation because of ThredUp. How is that maybe reducing Reformation's need to really market, to drive and bring in new customers to their ecosystem? This partnership also brought a lot of really fabulous media and generated a lot of really kind of fantastic placements, really kind of again acknowledging and establishing Reformation as a sustainability-driven company and one that's also prioritizing circularity as well. So the net benefit here of $1.5 million, again, just in 1 year. I think all of these cases really exemplify how the ROSI framework can help to really build powerful cross-functional relationships within companies. They all required alignment and collaboration, in REI's case between HR and sustainability, or in Eileen Fisher's case between the Renew team and finance, and Reformation's team between data analytics and marketing, et cetera. And we think that's a really powerful way that ROSI can help to really drive this work internally to help communicate the financial benefits of this sustainability work as well. So the last thing before I pull up our panel is just to say, if you'd like to learn more about this apparel work, we have a lot of resources on our website, in-depth mapping of the entire framework and all of the different associated strategies and practices, narrative case studies on the information that I just shared at a high level, as well as a number of Excel-based tools that could allow you to download them, plug in your own numbers, and explore them. We'll also have a deep dive after today's panel where we'll walk through the employee and circularity cases in more depth. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my slides and we can pull up our panel to join the stage with me. Great. Good morning, everyone. Thanks again so much to all of you for being with us and for your engagement and collaboration on this project. I was saying in the backstage room, I realized that 3 of you are on the West Coast, so certainly appreciate you being up for this. And again, to all of you for really your powerful thought leadership and support of this work over the last few months. So I'm going to moderate a dialogue for about 30 minutes or so, and then we'll leave some time at the end for questions. Eric, I'd love to start with you. As a corporate banker, how are you supporting apparel companies in advancing their sustainability strategies?
Sure. Thank you, Sophie. So HSBC has ESG and sustainability as part of its DNA and part of the way we do business. And so recently, our senior management committed to be net carbon neutral by 2030 and net financed carbon neutral by 2050. So how do we get there? That's a lofty goal considering the diversity geographically and sector-wise that we finance. So the goal is not to accomplish that through exiting half our portfolio of clients, but rather to help shepherd our clients and guide clients through the process of improving their own sustainability metrics and through methods and financing tools that the bank has to offer. So one of those is sponsoring this NYU study around ROSI, and then encouraging our clients to use the tool across all the channels that you just described to find ways to move themselves to a more sustainable future in an economical and reasonable way that also provides returns to them. So a fantastic tool for us to promote to our clients. Another example is sustainable supply chain solutions. So this is where the bank finances vendors for companies, and it's really a win-win-win where the bank is able to help participate and provide incentives to vendors and factories to improve their own sustainability quotients and then get incentive pricing for their financing based on their own metrics. So those are two examples of tools that we're using as a bank to help encourage improvements.
Great. Thank you so much, Eric. And as I led with, there's so many different disruptions in the apparel sector right now. And I'm curious for your thoughts on, how do you think that a focus or an increased focus on sustainability and tracking the ROI using the ROSI methodology might help companies mitigate against some of these disruptive changes?
Yeah. So as I think about my client base and all the challenges across the retail sector and apparel specifically, given COVID and other macroeconomic issues, it's tough to get people to focus on new investments. And so as I think about sustainability in the context of this industry, there's really three factors that I think would move the needle. There's new government regulation, which may or may not occur. There's certainly consumer sentiment, and we're seeing that very broadly, where especially generations of consumers are quite interested in what companies are doing on this subject. And so I think that will create influence. And then the third area is really financial self-interest. So if we can demonstrate that making these investments has a positive return in terms of revenue, in terms of profitability, in terms of employee engagement and retention, and on all these channels, then there's an easier methodology, an easier path to get companies to invest in it. There's a lot less resistance. And so I think that's what ROSI really gets at the heart of, is being able to put on paper for a finance person or an owner operator or a C-suite what they're getting in return for making these investments.
Great. Really fantastic perspective to share to get us started this morning. So Matt, I'd love to bring you into the conversation. So as you know, the focus of our collaboration with you and the REI team was really on how do you think about quantifying the benefits of being a purpose-led company, especially as it pertains to how it might improve overall employee well-being. So could you kind of walk us through the results that I shared at a high level, and what kinds of implications do you think that they'll have for REI's management moving forward?
Yeah, thanks, Sophie, and thanks for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here. For anyone not familiar with REI, a little bit of a setup. We are an outdoor retail cooperative. So we sell the gear and apparel for a wide variety of muscle-powered outdoor activities. And as a retail organization, about 90% of our employees are working in retail, directly engaging with customers on a day-to-day basis. So for our organization, how we attract talent, how we retain it, how we grow it is, as with any organization, really critical, but particularly through that retail lens and working directly with our customers who often have very technical questions about how to do different activities outdoors. So when we were approached by the NYU Stern team, we decided to really test the boundaries of ROSI's capabilities and decided to throw a case study that for us is a bit of an unusual approach, which was really getting into this. How do we quantify the impact of our values-based investments in our employees and try to assess what the ROI on that looks like? And I'll emphasize at the top here that these are investments that we make in our employees and their well-being because it's the right thing to do, not because of the ROI. But we saw an opportunity to kind of bring the sustainability lens that we use in other parts of our business to this body of work. So we started by looking at our employee engagement data that we have across the organization. And we have a really robust survey that we conduct every year that looks at a wide array of data points and is ultimately assessing overall employee engagement across the co-op. And one of the things that we wanted to understand is, do our values-based investments, so things like your example, Sophie, of giving employees paid days off to go give back to their community and what we call fighting for life outside, which is the first value of the co-op, do those translate to increased employee engagement? And if yes, does that increased employee engagement translate into financial benefits or a more financially healthy organization? So looking at that fully anonymized data, we were able to pick up the trends underneath it, which are trends we hadn't necessarily looked at before. And what we found was a clear causal link between how employees perceive the organization's investments in our values and in the fight for life outdoors, which can serve as a proxy for sustainability, and how they view their overall level of engagement or rate their overall level of engagement as employees of the co-op. So first link is established there. For the second part of the question that we really wanted to test the ROSI methodology on was, does that translate into any sort of financial impacts to the co-op, positive or negative? And what we see is that generally REI benchmarks at the upper echelons for retail organizations in terms of things like employee engagement. We also went and we looked at our ability to attract talent, to retain that talent, and we looked at productivity of the talent that we bring into the organization. And for that, we benchmarked ourselves against retail industry averages as the best available proxy. And what we found is, there are pretty substantial benefits to our ability to attract and retain that level of talent, and that values-based orientation of the organization seems to be a really core part of executing that. And so when we run the numbers on that and we subtract out the costs of doing this work, and some of the costs of being sort of a values-based organization are essentially free. It's in how you show up day to day and how you interact with your peers on a day-to-day basis. But in other areas, there are substantial costs, giving 13,000 employees multiple paid days off per year to go do work in the community. And what we found is, after subtracting those costs, there's a modest but very notable benefit to the organization that equates to about 5% of our total payroll costs. So that was, in a nutshell, the process that we went through with this ROSI methodology.
Great. Thank you so much, Matt. And I think it's also just one of my learnings from the project is how important having something like a robust employee engagement survey can be in allowing you to really extract this type of data, which you might use. Of course, you're using it for lots of different purposes throughout the organization. But I think one kind of theme we see in a lot of ROSI projects is, how do we ensure that companies have the right data, and how do we know that we're then able to kind of extract that as well to maybe run other types of analysis on it. So just kind of really great for you to thank you for kind of walking us through how important that survey was to this project as well. And then Matt, last kind of question for you is, what kind of advice might you have for companies regarding how they can think about engaging employees through this lens of purpose and sustainability?
This is the first time that in probably over a decade, I think it's fair to say, that we took a quantified lens to understanding the overlap between our sustainability work and our work as on the employee side and really investing in employees. And so for us, it was a reminder of the importance, to your point, Sophie, of going into this space and viewing sustainability not just as something where we assess the impacts on sort of capital investments or on the products that we bring to market, but also thinking about it as a clear lens through which people choose to work at the organization, to stay at the organization, and to grow with the co-op. So, first I'd say pushing into that space as a sustainability practitioner is important. And I think in a lot of organizations that maybe hasn't been done with consistency. And I'd also say that, our finding was that you can be a values-based organization making some pretty substantial investments in your employees and their health and well-being. And you can do so in a way that is cost neutral or even has a positive ROI. And when you think about 10 million Americans who are working retail jobs, that has, hopefully some good scalable potential there. There's a lot of phenomenal retailers out there who are doing really good work in this space, and we take cues from others by all means, but not all retail jobs are created equal. And so I think that there's an opportunity to show that when you're investing in your people, there's a broader benefit to the organization. Great.
Thank you so much, Matt. Cynthia, I'd love to bring you into the conversation. So one of the focus of our work together was really around monetizing the benefits of Eileen Fisher's Renew program and line. So could you tell us a little bit more about Renew, and then kind of what you learned from the ROSI process that we embarked on, and how you think that the findings might impact decision-making moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. And good morning, everybody. So I'm Cynthia Power. I'm the director of the Renew program at Eileen Fisher. And our program was founded in 2009 as a resale program, and started with employee engagement only, and then expanded it to customers. And so this is our I guess this is our 12th year actually as a program, as part of the company. The way it works, just high level, is we take back any Eileen Fisher garment at any of our Eileen Fisher US-based stores, or people can send them into our warehouses, and we give back $5 gift card, Eileen Fisher gift card, for each piece that we get back, regardless of the condition that it's in, which is a pretty different model, I think, than a lot of what's out there, and we're definitely looking at it at the moment. But you could give us a pristine, white button down, and we'll give you $5, and you can give us a shredded, moth-eaten, wine-stained, sweater, and we'll give you $5. So far that has worked for us. And we take everything back, we clean it. We have a new partner, Thurston Cleaning Solutions, who are really great, and definitely a huge part of like sustainability and technology moving forward in terms of cleaning. And then we redistribute what is in, basically perfect condition, which is a little less than half of everything we get back is still in really perfect condition, which I think is a testament to the quality of the product that we make. And also I think, it's expensive, so people take care of it. And so we redistribute our, perfect pieces back to, we have 2 freestanding Renew resale stores, and we have our website, eileenfisherrenew.com. And we also sell that product, the resale product, in a handful of our full price and outlet stores for the company. And so what we cannot resell, we try to make, interesting remanufacturing, reuse projects. We have a great overdyed indigo collection that we do every April that we'll be selling on renew.com. So keep your eyes out for that. And we do some resewing, like cutting up and resewing together to create new products out of old products. We also have a great project called Waste No More, where we're creating a felted, non-woven material, like new material out of old material for different uses. So we're really trying to be as responsible as we can with everything that we take back. And so let's see, that's kind of a high level of our program. In 2000, just to give a sense of numbers, in 2019, which is, I think, a much better measure of, normal, we took back 250,000 garments. And to date, for the whole program, we've taken back 1.5 million garments. And so we've really seen kind of year over year, not including last year, COVID, but year over year, increase in both the takebacks and the sales. So in terms of Rosie, I mean, it was really great, I think, to look at all the questions that you all were asking us, and how you're kind of laying out all the data. It was extremely helpful. It was definitely painful for us to get all of those answers. But I think it's important. And once you kind of set it up, it's like, all right, well, this is what we need to track going forward. So in terms of the financial piece of it, just seeing the money that Renew is bringing to the bottom line of the company, like that was kind of less surprising. But really looking at the customer data, customer acquisition, as well as the PR. I'll say the PR was also more straightforward, just how many impressions and, how many mentions and things like that. But the real, I think, place of opportunity is the customer data. And the opportunity is kind of twofold. I would say, like, a huge part of the opportunity and the kind of future value of the Renew program for the Eileen Fisher company is in acquiring new customers through the Renew program. And I would argue, regardless of if they just stay with Renew and shop with Renew, or if they also become a full price customer, I would say people are gonna buy Eileen Fisher product used, whether or not they buy it from us. So I'd rather that they buy it from us. And so there's a huge opportunity there for the company. And so then the opportunity in terms of Rosie is really about the data and needing to have better, cleaner, more data about the customer who's coming into Renew and whether or not she's also shopping mainline. And so, I think that what the numbers that we saw there from your model were small. And I think we all agreed that because the data wasn't because we didn't have a lot of data to share with you, they didn't feel accurate. And so I think looking forward, we really want to place more value and kind of more resource on making sure that we get more of that data and can really mine into it to show more of the value that Renew does bring to the company. So I'm going to pause there. Did I answer your full question?
Yeah, no, that was fantastic, Cynthia. And I think you hit on a lot of really great points. And especially, I know this question, I think we talked about it a bit as well, a question that a lot of brands have around the rise in re-commerce and circularity is perhaps around one of sort of, will I be cannibalizing my full price line if I go into re-commerce? But I think, Cynthia, the point that you made around sort of people are going to buy secondhand Eileen Fisher on some other platform otherwise. So how can brands really own the re-commerce themselves, I think is a trend that we see. And then layering on Rosie, how can you actually start to prove it's, to sort of really be able to say, is it or is it not cannibalizing? And sort of what, if it's not, what sort of our hunch is that it's not, really be able to prove how it's also driving financial performance, as you said, just by purchasing Renew alone or drawing customers into your full price line as well. So great. Kathleen from Reformation, would love to hear from you if you could tell us a bit more about the ThreadUp Ref partnership, how it came about, and then what you've learned from the Rosie process and how it's maybe helping you and your team think about these types of brand partnerships moving forward.
Great. Thanks, Sophie. I'm going to start with a quick intro too, just for those that might not know Reformation. Our mission is to bring sustainable fashion to everyone. So like Renew, actually, we were created in 2009, and we're a lifestyle brand that combines stylish, vintage-inspired designs with sustainable practices. So we do our best to infuse low-impact measures into every aspect of the business. So we offset 100% of our products' carbon, water, and waste. We run our own facility or factory in Los Angeles. We started using dead stock and better materials. So Sophie did a great introduction of the impacts of fashion on people and the planet to start the conversation. And you just heard more around circularity from Cynthia and the Eileen Fisher initiative. But I think we're one of the key issues that we think we have an imperative to solve is the circularity question. So the current fashion system does operate on this take, make, dispose process. 90% of clothing is thrown away before the end of its useful life. And so we really want to use our brand platform to innovate for circular models. So at Ref, we do that in a number of ways. We sell vintage in one-of-a-kind vintage shops and online. Occasionally, it's a little bit more challenging to do that online. But we're getting there. We source recycled fibers and upcycle our own manufacturing waste and do other sorts of initiatives like partnering with on-rental platforms. But I would say one of our really core circularity initiatives has been our partnership with ThreadUp. Basically, we just provide an e-gift card or a ref credit to customers who resell or recycle their stuff through ThreadUp. And we started this partnership really just to drive resale and to extend the life of our stuff. We were actually the first brand to partner with ThreadUp for what they now call resale as a service. So we helped pilot both the marketing and the back-end logistics of the program. And what we found at launch is that it really does encourage and empower customers to practice more circular practices and participate in resale. So we've seen 250,000 to now over 400,000 garments recirculated through the program each year. So in that respect, it's been very effective. But we've also seen that has the potential to generate revenue and other business value. So, Sophie gave you the high level rundown. I always think of this as like one of our programs that can be that true win-win which I know is so aspirational when we do sustainability work, right? You're not always going to have those, but this is one where, again, it's driving real impact, and it has the potential to drive financial value and returns. So when I reflect on our engagement with the Stern Group and Rosie, I think we've had a few main takeaways that I think will apply to future brand partnerships and really just our sustainability work in general. So, I think you've heard this from Matt when he was talking around really, again, the motivation for what they do. You do it because it's the right thing. And I think our primary objective when we launch these programs is still to report the sustainability impact first. So in this case, how many garments are reused and recycled, and what is the associated environmental savings with those activities? That still has to kind of anchor the why behind the program. But we also have the opportunity to evaluate the business case and even some of these positive unintended benefits through Rosie and report that to our program partner, in this case, ThreadApp, our internal teams and other stakeholders, to really give a more fulsome view and a better sense of the total return of the program. I know you've heard this from some of the other case studies as well, but I think by reporting in clear financial terms and providing proper accounting of the program, you can also inform just really practical program decisions. So, in this case, we were considering an incentive booster that we offered through the program. So basically like a little 10 or 15% premium on the gift card. We were seeing that as, an expense line in our operating budgets. And, I'd always have to be kind of like defending it each budget cycle. And I think when you look at that within the Rosie framework, you realize that it can easily be covered in the overall program budget. And again, that's actually a really, it has incredible return on that investment. When you think of it, even just outside of the sustainability framework, but just as a marketing spend. I think the other key takeaway that, again, you've heard Sophie mention, but I think the Rosie process, not just the tool, but that process itself, I think really drives broader internal stakeholder engagement. So for us, getting finance and growth marketing and other executive leaders involved in the program analysis was good for alignment. It also meant that we were using the tools and the language that they were most comfortable with. So I love that now Rosie is my entry point to starting those conversations. It's really challenging to lead with the more intangible sustainability benefits, or I always joke, like trying to define circularity again for our C-suite versus like being able to show them that the Rosie results. So using that as your entry point, and then hopefully, again, you can go deeper and drive broader engagement on some of that core sustainability stuff too. That's important. And then lastly, I think Reformation as a brand, we've been deeply committed to transparency and sharing our learnings along the way, so that we can really drive collective impact across the industry. I know REI and Eileen Fisher could say the same. And so, hopefully the case studies for both Rosie and the resale as a service model will help others in attendance here, but also help encourage brands to share about their wins and challenges in sustainability programs. So I think, again, we all need to be doing this work. We all need to be doing more of it and faster. So how can we do that in more of an open source, transparent way so that, again, we're really helping accelerate some of that change. So that was another big takeaway for us, and one of the benefits of participating in this program. So again, big thank you to the Stern Group for facilitating that and making that possible.
Great. Thank you so much, Kathleen. And thanks again to all of you for your thought leadership and collaboration in this work. I'm going to turn to the audience for questions, and then I have a lightning round question as well if we need it. So questions come in for Kathleen and Cynthia. Have you been working with new biodegradable textile manufacturers or other novel plant plant-based textile. So how are you thinking about all of the exciting work around textile, innovation? So I don't know if either of you would like to, take that one or start.
Cynthia's giving me the pass, I guess. Yes. I just was I was nervous that I just finished talking too much at this group, but I'm happy to take that one. Better materials and materials innovation is a core pillar of what we do and what we've been committed to really from day one. But the landscape is changing so quickly, and there's so many new technologies and things available. So we definitely are 100% of our stuff meets our fiber standards. And so by definition, those are biodegradable, recycled, regenerative, or renewable. We have a tiered system when we think about fibers. So our top tiers are really the sweet spot. And again, kind of like driving the industry forward versus just being better. And in 2020, over 90% of our sourcing was in those tiers now. So we've been making a lot of progress in this area, everything from regenerative cotton to tensile lyocell and other kind of plant-based semi-synthetic garments that I think are really going to help drive lower environmental chemical footprints, but also I think the point of the question too is the fact that they are biodegradable or have less of a legacy when we're done using them. I think for us, the real unlock is going to be having a true circular model and really designing for circularity to begin with, so that we can also take those finished goods or manufacturing waste, really any sort of material waste along the cycle, and be able to recirculate that into next generation materials. So that's really something that, we're committed to. We've been working on really in earnest for the last 5+ years, and are just starting to see some uptake in what's available, not just to Reformation, but really for the industry as a whole.
And I can just comment, kind of similar to Kathleen. The main brand, Eileen Fisher, which I think is what is being asked about, really is, we're totally committed to sustainable fabrics, and most of what we work with are natural fibers, which themselves would be biodegradable, but a lot of times it's the dye process that kind of messes everything up. And so we do work with Blue Sign. And that's kind of our main, I think, reference for our dye stuff. And I'm not an expert in that field at all. I know that we try to do as much organic linen and cotton as we can. We just did a whole thing with regenerative wool moving forward. So there's that. But then I will comment on the kind of fiber to fiber recycling. We do try to incorporate recycled fibers into our full price goods, but we also are working on projects where we take our taken back damaged goods, and we actually are working to have them recycled so that we can put them back into our own clothes and have I just think it would be amazing to say, this is a 50% recycled cotton t-shirt, and the recycled cotton is actually from old Eileen Fisher t-shirts. Like that's the dream. So we're working on those kinds of things as well.
Great. Lots of good questions coming in. So next one that I'll take is, what do you think are the most obvious causal links to sustainable investments and organizational outcomes? I don't know if anyone would like to share a perspective on that. Eric, I saw you unmute. Not sure if you want to jump in there.
It was just in case you called on me, but happy to take a crack at it quickly, and others as well. But, I think I end up speaking from the financial side often with the finance team, and they'll tell me that, there's a lot of programs that their sustainability teams are looking at, and they're all very expensive. And so I think to me, data is the main piece that sort of bridges that gap, right? That's really what we're talking about here today, is how do you convince people to spend money in order to get this benefit? And I think it ends up being sort of this virtuous cycle where you spend money, you get a good result, and therefore you're willing to spend even more on this ESG investment. And so all the brands we have here today, I think, it's safe to say, benefit from their ESG credentials. And so it spurs more investment.
Great. I'm going to move to another great question is, how do you reconcile the value of recycling versus reusing materials, both from a consumer, a corporate, and impact point of view? What kinds of questions would you encourage an organization to think about to answer this question?
Can I take that one first?
Yes, Cynthia.
I'm wondering if this question was planted by a fellow. No, this has been kind of occupying my brain for the last few weeks. And I actually just sent an email to like all my external contacts that I know of saying like, we've got to figure this out together. So kind of the main, like for Eileen Fisher Renew, the way that this shows up is, for example, we have we have a lot of product that we think is still inherently great, very wearable. We don't think it's resellable. Like it could be like lots of cotton t-shirts that have a little stain or a little rip, and it's going to be really hard to sell them, but like they're still really high quality. I mean, Eileen Fisher makes really high quality clothing, and we feel like, for example, like if we could get those out to like women's shelters all across the country or something like that is, you want your stuff to be reused. That's the best way, I think, to really to keep it going. And I think that is the most responsible thing. That being said, there is too much stuff everywhere. There is just too much. And it's like, I don't think it's realistic to expect that like, I don't know, organizations are going to comb through the tens of thousands of things that they're given charitably to say like, oh, this is high quality. Like we'll pass this on to be reused, and this is low quality and we'll recycle this. So I think that we have to think about it as I'm thinking about it. Is it better to shred all of it and have it know that it's becoming insulation for something, that will continue to be used, as opposed to kind of putting it out there into this kind of giant other system and industry of, textile recycling, where a lot of it ends up overseas anyways, which is not really what we're trying to do at all. And so I think it's a great question. We don't have a really clear answer to it. I have like my ideal state that I would like, but we're still kind of far away from that. So I feel like it's an open question, at least for me. I'm curious what others think.
I'll just jump in quickly. I think I agree with Cynthia. One way to think about it or to frame it up might be that you want to facilitate as much reuse during the useful life of that garment as possible, because that will basically make the costs, all sorts of costs, again, on people on the planet, less per use or per wear. But ultimately, the aspiration is to make sure that that stuff actually can be recycled and recirculated into the fashion industry, which I know Cynthia and I both have talked to already. So yes, you want to use reuse to make sure that you get the most of its useful life. But then at the end of the day, even if you add 2 life cycles, 3 life cycles, you still have a material product at the end, or material waste at the end, that you want to think about the best way to get it back into the nutrient cycle instead of, again, sending that straight to landfill.
Great. Matt, did you want to add anything?
No, Kathleen covered it.
Great.
Thank you.
So I think we have time for maybe one more. It's a question that I get asked a lot, and just, the question is geared towards Cynthia and Kathleen. But this question around sort of smaller brands and sustainability. The question asks, do you believe that the initiatives you've implemented are achievable for smaller brands and may not have resources such as their companies? If so, is Rosie the best place to start? I didn't plant this question. Or what can brands do in the short or long term to become circular and sustainable?
Well, I personally think that small brands have I won't say easier, if that's the word that comes to mind. If you're smaller, you're more nimble. I think you're able to make decisions and change things more easily. That's my impression. Forgive me if you disagree, but so I think that there is an opportunity to implement changes more easily. And I think that, you can also, I think it's important to think about how is your product being designed and can it be taken back? Have you implemented some kind of take back program? Again, if you're small, like you could do it as an event once a year. You could do it, there's a lot of ways to think about doing it small and starting small and just trying something and then trying something else. And so, I think that resale, to me, if you're making a quality product, is something that you can do really easily. We started resale in one store. It was the manager who just thought, okay, let's bring stuff back from our employees' closets. We'll clean it and we'll resell it to customers. Like, that's how the program started. So I would say, I'll let others speak, but I think that there's a lot of things that smaller brands can do to start implementing circularity.
Great. So that does it for our panel. We are at time. Again, I want to thank Eric, Matt, Kathleen, Cynthia, your colleagues at your companies for all of your engagement and support and work on this project to date. And thank you all for tuning in and for their great questions. If you'd like to dive a bit deeper into the models and the tools we've developed in partnership with our brands, that's coming up in our next deep dive sessions. Thanks you all again, and speak with you soon.
Hi, everyone. Apologies for the slight lag there. Thanks so much, Sophie, and the rest of our panelists for an excellent conversation. So now we welcome everyone to join us in some hands-on workshops about the ROSI methodology and take a deeper dive into how to monetize employee well-being with REI and circularity with Reformation. So to navigate over there, you can go to the left side of your screen and click on the Sessions button, and then at about 12:10, we will reconvene on this live stage for our final event of the day. Thank you so much, and please feel free to type in the chat if you're having any issues or could use any instructions.